Commander Valera Threx stood at the edge of the observation ring, her 4 silver eyes watching the endless stars drift past the station windows. The Alliance station Charon's Reach floated in deep space like a crown of metal and light. It was one of the largest stations ever built by the Galactic Alliance. Strong shields, advanced weapons, hundreds of species working together. Valera believed nothing could threaten it. She folded her long arms behind her back and listened as voices echoed across the command chamber behind her. Officers spoke in many tones and languages, sharing reports, updates, and warnings. Most of it sounded the same as always. Trade routes stable, border patrols quiet, minor pirate activity far from the core systems, nothing worth concern. One of the officers, a tall insect-like being named Zorkel, clicked his mandibles and raised a datapad. "There is one item left," Zorkel said. "A request from the human delegation." Valera sighed and turned around. "Humans again?" Several officers exchanged glances. A few made soft sounds of amusement. "Yes, Commander," Zorkel replied. "They ask for an increase in security clearance for their personnel stationed here." Valera tilted her head slightly. "And why would they need that?" "Why?" Zorkel hesitated. "They claim it is precautionary." That was enough to make Valera laugh. It was a sharp, controlled sound, but laughter all the same. "Precautionary," she repeated. "Against what? Ghosts? Stories?" She walked back toward the central table, her boots clicking against the smooth floor. "For cycles now," Valera continued, "we have heard these strange human tales. Humans as unstoppable fighters, humans as warriors born from harsh worlds, humans who never retreat." She waved one hand dismissively. "And yet," she said, "look at them. Soft skin, no natural armor, no claws, no venom, no enhanced senses. They are fragile by Alliance standards." A few officers nodded. Others stayed silent. Valera leaned forward, resting her hands on the table. "They survive because they hide behind machines," she said. "Because they use tools, technology. Without it, they would not last long in true combat." Zorkel shifted uncomfortably. "Some records suggest—" "Records can be wrong," Valera interrupted. "Stories grow with time. Fear makes legends larger than truth." She straightened and spoke clearly. "Humans are allies, yes, useful engineers, decent planners, but warriors?" She shook her head. "That is fantasy." The chamber filled with quiet agreement. At the far end of the room, unnoticed by most, a single human stood near the wall. His name was Ethan Cole. He wore a simple Alliance security uniform, marked with a small human insignia. He was not tall compared to many species in the room. His build was solid but unremarkable. Brown hair cut short. Calm eyes that observed more than they revealed. Ethan did not speak. He listened. He had heard these comments before. On other stations, on other worlds, humans were often underestimated, sometimes mocked, sometimes ignored. He did not mind. Ethan believed words were cheap, actions mattered more. Zorkel cleared his throat. "Commander, with respect, there have been reports. Pirate groups moving closer to Alliance space. One faction in particular, the Grask Marauders." Valera's eyes narrowed slightly. "The Grask? They stay to the outer systems. They would not dare approach a core station. They have been acting differently," Zorkel said. "More aggressive, less predictable." Valera considered this for a moment, then waved it aside. "Charon's Reach has defeated greater threats than wandering raiders," she said. "Our defenses are automated and layered. Even if they tried, they would fail." Her gaze swept the room. "There is no need to panic, especially not because of pirate rumors." She turned back to Zorkel. "Tell the human delegation their request is denied. Current clearance is sufficient." Zorkel bowed slightly. "As you command." The meeting soon ended. Officers dispersed to their duties. Valera returned to the observation ring, watching the stars again. She felt satisfied, confident. The universe made sense when strength was measured properly. Behind her, footsteps approached. "Commander Threx," a calm voice said. Valeera turned, surprised to see the human standing there. "Yes?" she replied coolly. "Security Officer Ethan Cole," he said, placing a fist lightly against his chest in the human gesture of respect. "I wanted to thank you for hearing our request." Valeera studied him openly. Up close, he looked even less impressive. No visible enhancements, no threatening posture. "You are welcome," she said. Though the answer remains no. Ethan nodded. Understood. He made no argument. No protest. That annoyed her slightly. "You do not seem concerned," Valeera said. Ethan shrugged lightly. "Concern doesn't change outcomes. Preparation does." Valeera raised an eyebrow. "And are you prepared, Officer Cole?" Ethan met her gaze. "Always." There was no pride in his voice. No challenge. Just certainty. Valeera felt an odd chill, which she quickly dismissed. "Very well," she said. "You are dismissed." Ethan nodded again and turned to leave. As he walked away, Valeera watched him go, unsure why his calm bothered her more than fear ever would. Hours later, Charon's Reach continued its endless cycle. Ships arrived and departed. Cargo moved through corridors. Lights dimmed and brightened with artificial day and night. Life went on. Deep within the station, automated sensors monitored the dark space beyond the shields. One sensor blinked, then another. A quiet alert passed through the system, flagged as low priority. At first, then, more signals appeared. Unknown vessels, multiple, fast. The alert status shifted. Yellow, then orange. In the command chamber, Valeera stood as alarms began to hum softly. "Report," she ordered. Zorkel's mandibles clicked rapidly. Multiple contacts emerging from drift space. No alliance codes. Weapon signatures confirmed. Valeera's eyes widened slightly. "The Grask?" "Yes," Zorkel said. "And more than expected." "How many?" Valeera demanded. Zorkel hesitated. "Enough to be concerning." Valeera clenched her hands. "Raise shields. Activate automated defenses. Lock down civilian sectors." Orders echoed across the chamber as systems came online. On security decks throughout the station, personnel moved to stations. Ethan Cole felt the change immediately. The subtle vibration through the floor. The shift in lighting. He checked his equipment calmly. Around him, alien guards showed signs of stress. Some moved too fast. Others froze for a second too long. Ethan spoke quietly but clearly. "Stick to your positions," he said. "Watch your corners. Trust your training." A few guards glanced at him, surprised by his confidence. Then the first impact hit. The station shook as enemy fire slammed into the shields. The hum of energy filled the air. Another impact followed. Then another. "Shields holding," Zorkel reported. Valeera exhaled slowly. As expected, but even as she spoke, something felt wrong. The Grask ships did not retreat. They pressed harder. Suddenly, a sharp alarm cut through the chamber. "Commander!" Zorkel shouted. "Multiple boarding pods detected." Valeera's eyes snapped wide open. "Impossible. They would be destroyed before." "They are using shield disruption fields," Zorkel said. "Short bursts. Just enough to pass through." Valeera felt her confidence crack. "Seal all internal access points," she ordered. Security teams to intercept. Across the station, corridors locked. Bulkheads slammed shut. But some pods had already made it through. In one sector, metal screamed as a pod tore through the hull and slammed into a docking bay. Smoke filled the air. The bay doors burst open. Tall, heavily built Grask warriors charged out, roaring in their harsh language. Alien guards fired, but panic spread fast. Some fell back. Others hesitated. In a nearby corridor, Ethan Cole heard the sounds of battle. He did not wait for orders. He moved toward the noise. As he ran, his mind was clear. Focused. He had trained for moments like this since his first day in human service. Humans did not grow strong because the universe was kind. They grew strong because it was not. Ethan reached the edge of the docking bay and took cover, observing quickly. The Grask were powerful. Stronger than humans. Tougher skin. Heavy armor. But they were reckless. They rushed forward in straight lines, loud, confident. Ethan breathed out slowly. "All right," he murmured to himself. "Let's get to work." He stepped forward. The legends Valera mocked were about to meet reality. Smoke rolled across the floor. Emergency lights flashed red and white. Grask warriors pushed forward like a living wall, their heavy armor scraping against metal as they advanced. They shouted in rough, broken sounds, confident and loud. Alien guards fired again and again. But their shots were rushed. Some missed. Some struck armor and did little. Fear spread faster than fire. Ethan Cole watched everything from behind cover. He did not rush. He did not shout. He waited. One Grask warrior stepped too far ahead of the others, raising a heavy weapon and laughing as alien guards retreated. That was the mistake. Ethan moved. He broke from cover in a low run, sliding behind a cargo crate as enemy fire struck where he had been seconds before. He rose smoothly, aimed, and fired controlled shots at weak points in the Grask armor joints, sensors, exposed seams. The warrior stumbled, confused, then fell. The Grask roared in anger. Alien guards stared in shock. The human did not stop. Ethan advanced, using crates, walls, and fallen debris as cover. He never stayed in one place for long. He moved like water through stone, always flowing, always adjusting. "Hold your line," he called to the guards. "Aim together. Slow your fire." His voice was calm, steady. It cut through panic. Some guards hesitated, then followed his lead. Their shots became more focused, more effective. The Grask still pushed forward, but now they paid for every step. On the command deck, Commander Valera watched the live feeds in growing disbelief. "That is, one human," she said quietly. Zorkel clicked nervously. "Yes, Commander." Ethan fought not with raw strength, but with timing and patience. When he retreated, it was only to draw enemies into narrow spaces. When he attacked, it was sudden and precise. He fell back into a corridor where the ceiling was low and the walls tight. The Grask followed, eager and angry. It was exactly what Ethan wanted. In the narrow space, their numbers worked against them. They could not surround him. They could not rush together. Ethan held the corridor. Every step forward for the Grask cost them effort. Every mistake cost them more. An explosion rocked the station nearby. The floor shook. Ethan stumbled but stayed upright. He checked his surroundings quickly. 2 alien guards were down, wounded but alive. He moved to them without hesitation, dragging them to cover. "Stay down," he told them. "You'll be okay." He turned back toward the enemy, alone again. Elsewhere in the station, more boarding pods broke through. Security lines collapsed in several sectors. Fear spread, but so did something else. Reports came in. Human units holding Sector 9. Human officer leading counterattack in Docking Bay 3. Human squad protecting medical wing. Valera felt something twist in her chest. These were not stories. This was real. In the corridor, Ethan felt fatigue creeping in. His arms burned. His breathing grew heavier. He welcomed it. Fatigue meant effort. Effort meant progress. A Grask leader stepped forward, larger than the rest, his armor marked with symbols of rank. He raised his weapon and pointed it at Ethan. The Grask spoke, his translator struggling to keep up. "Small one," the Grask growled. "You fight well. Step aside. We will spare you." Ethan wiped sweat from his brow. "No," he said simply. The Grask snarled and charged. Ethan braced himself. The impact was heavy. The Grask was stronger. He slammed Ethan into the wall, denting metal. Pain flashed through Ethan's side. He gritted his teeth and kept moving. Strength was not the only answer. Ethan struck where it mattered. He shifted his weight, used the Grask's momentum, and forced the larger being off balance. They crashed to the floor. The Grask roared again, trying to rise. Ethan did not give him the chance. When it was over, the corridor fell silent except for Ethan's breathing. He stood slowly. The remaining Grask pulled back, confusion and caution replacing confidence. For the first time, they hesitated. On the command deck, Valera leaned closer to the display. She felt something she had not felt in a long time. Respect. The station-wide alert shifted. "Enemy advance slowing," Zorkel reported. Human-led sectors holding firm. We event. Violara closed her eyes briefly. She had been wrong, and the cost of that mistake was clear. Open a channel to all units, she ordered. Her voice carried across the station. All defenders, she said. Hold your ground. Coordinate with human personnel. Follow their lead. There was no hesitation now. The battle was far from over, but the tide had changed. End of Part 2. Part 3. The Weight of Respect. The battle lasted hours, not because the Grask were unstoppable, but because they refused to retreat easily. They pushed again and again, testing every defense, searching for weakness. They did not find it. Where humans stood, the line held. Ethan Cole moved through the station like a shadow, never staying still for long. He coordinated with alien officers, adjusted defenses, and redirected forces where they were needed most. He did not command with authority. He led with action. When systems failed, he adapted. When allies faltered, he stood beside them. Word spread quickly. Stay near the humans. They don't break. They keep going. In the medical wing, a final Grask push threatened civilians. Automated defenses were down. Guards were exhausted. Ethan arrived with a small group, 2 humans and several alien defenders. They formed a line. The Grask charged. This time, they were met with steady resistance. The humans fought with silent focus. They moved together, covering each other without words. When one fell, another stepped forward. The Grask slowed, then stopped, then turned away. The retreat was sudden. Emergency signals showed enemy ships pulling back, boarding pods disengaging. Cheers echoed through the station. The battle was over. Charon's reach was damaged, but alive. Smoke cleared, lights stabilized. Wounded were treated. In the command chamber, Violara stood as reports came in. Enemy forces retreating, Zorkel said. No further threats detected. Violara nodded slowly. Open a channel, she said. The screen flickered, and Ethan appeared tired, bruised, but standing. Officer Cole, Violara said. Yes, Commander. She paused. Words did not come easily. You saved this station, she said at last. Ethan shook his head. Everyone did their part. Violara stepped closer to the screen. I mocked your people, she said. I dismissed the stories. She lowered her head slightly, a rare gesture. I was wrong. Ethan said nothing. He did not need to. Later, in a quiet corridor overlooking the stars, Violara stood beside Ethan. The universe looked different now. Your strength, she said. It is not in your bodies. Ethan smiled faintly. No. It's in what we don't give up. Violara watched the stars drift by. From that day forward, humans were no longer jokes or myths. They were something far more dangerous. They were trusted. They were respected. And when the Alliance spoke of last lines of defense, they spoke of humans. The battle alarms had finally silenced. The red and orange lights that once flashed wildly now dimmed to steady white. Smoke drifted lazily through the corridors of Charon's reach. The station scarred but standing. Metallic scent mixed with burned electronics hung in the air. The echoes of battle had faded, leaving behind silence except for the soft groans of wounded and the occasional hum of automated systems repairing themselves. Commander Violara Threx walked through the main command deck, her movements measured. She had spent the entire battle watching through live feeds, seeing the chaos, the panic, and, most importantly, the humans in action. She had expected fear, hesitation, weakness, but what she had witnessed instead left her breathless. She paused at the edge of the observation ring and watched the aftermath below. Alien soldiers moved in organized lines, carrying their wounded. Small human squads helped carry those too injured to walk. Every human she saw seemed calm, collected, and determined. They were not the fragile creatures she had imagined. Her mind replayed the moments of the battle. The corridors where one human stood alone against multiple Grask warriors. The way he moved, not with brute strength, but with precision, patience, and an understanding of his surroundings. Each strike, each movement seemed calculated. He had not panicked when the station shook. He had not faltered when his allies fell. And most of all, he had not stopped. Violara remembered the first time she had seen him confront the Grask leader in the narrow corridor. The larger warrior had charged, confident that sheer size and strength would overwhelm a single human. The human had taken the blow, adapted instantly, and used the Grask's own momentum against him. When the Grask had fallen, stunned and off balance, the human had stood his ground. That was the moment she realized the legends were not myths, they had been incomplete. She turned sharply as Zorkel clicked his mandibles beside her. "Commander," he said, his voice carrying a mixture of relief and awe. "All sectors report that the remaining Grask forces have retreated. Caron's reach is secure." Valera nodded slowly. "Yes," she said. "But the station is scarred. There are injured, lives lost." Her silver eyes swept across the main deck. "We are lucky to have survived." Zorkel hesitated. "Commander, you should know. The humans played the pivotal role in securing the station. Their actions prevented what could have been a catastrophic failure." "Afteen." Valera's jaw tightened. She had expected humans to be useful in minor support roles, but never to lead a counterattack of this magnitude. "Lead the humans to the medical bays and debrief them," she ordered. "I need to speak with the officer in charge personally." "Yes, Commander," Zorkel said. He bowed slightly and moved to execute her orders. Ethan Cole, the human officer, moved through the smoke-filled corridors with quiet determination. His uniform was scorched, his skin smudged with soot and grime. But his expression remained calm. Around him, alien soldiers looked at him with awe, whispers of praise floating through the air. He acknowledged none of it. Humans rarely sought recognition. They acted because it was necessary. He reached a makeshift triage area where injured aliens and humans were being treated. He helped coordinate triage, directing available medical personnel to those in most urgent need. When one injured alien struggled to stay conscious, Ethan held the creature steady, offering words in its native language, careful, steady, calming words that eased panic. Even the injured began to recognize him. They watched as he moved through danger earlier, leading alien soldiers into safety, protecting the station's civilians, and holding critical sectors until reinforcements could arrive. Where fear had threatened to spread, he had inserted calm. Where panic had threatened to fracture defense lines, he had created unity. Valera arrived moments later. Her presence silenced the corridor. Even the most panicked aliens paused. She observed Ethan carefully. Up close, he appeared unremarkable. A simple human, no enhanced armor, no alien-sized muscles, no weapons that stood out. And yet, he radiated authority through action, not words. Ethan looked up at her. "Commander," he said simply. No pride, no self-promotion, only acknowledgement. Valera hesitated, searching for the words. She had never been one to admit fault easily. But the moment demanded honesty. "Officer Cole, you were exceptional," she said. "I underestimated your people. I thought human warriors were myths, exaggerated tales. I see now that I was wrong." Ethan shook his head slightly. "Stories often leave out the truth," he replied. "Strength isn't always in size or armor. Sometimes it's in endurance, patience, and refusing to quit." Valera nodded slowly, a thought forming she had not considered before. Humans were resilient, adaptable, and relentless. They survived worlds that could kill most species. They fought with strategy, intelligence, and unity. Their strength was quiet, yet unstoppable when tested. She gestured toward the injured aliens and humans being treated nearby. "You saved hundreds of lives today. The station would have fallen without you." Ethan shrugged. "I only did my part." Valera studied him for a long moment. Humans did not seek glory. They acted because it was necessary. That humility, combined with their grit, made them even more formidable than she had imagined. Hours later, after the last injured were stabilized, Valera called a station-wide assembly. Alien officers and humans alike gathered in the central hall. Word of the battle's outcome had spread rapidly, and curiosity and respect filled the room. The Grask had retreated. Caron's reach was safe, and one human officer had become the focus of everyone's attention. Vieira stepped to the podium, her 4 eyes scanning the crowd. Silence fell. She took a deep breath. "Today," she began, "our station faced a threat unlike any we have encountered in cycles. The Grask marauders, strong, ruthless, and determined, attempted to overwhelm Charon's reach." She paused, letting her words sink in. Many species fought bravely, and many gave everything they could. But one individual, one human, stood out. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "Humans rarely receive such praise openly," Vieira continued. "Officer Ethan Cole did not act out of arrogance. He did not act out of pride. He acted out of necessity, courage, and discipline. He held critical sectors of the station, protected civilians, and coordinated defense when panic threatened to break our lines. Today, he proved the stories we once mocked were not exaggerations, they were incomplete." Ethan remained silent in the back of the room, standing with quiet dignity. His eyes scanned the crowd, noting gratitude and amazement in every gaze. Vieira took a deep breath. "Let this day serve as a lesson to all of us. Strength is not always measured in muscle, weaponry, or armor. It is measured in willpower, strategy, and the refusal to surrender even when the odds are against you. Humans possess this strength, and today, they reminded us all of it." The room erupted in applause. Alien officers nodded with respect. Even those who had once doubted humans bowed subtly, in acknowledgement. Vieira looked at Ethan. "You have earned more than respect," she said softly. "You have earned our trust. Your people have earned a place as true defenders of the Alliance." Ethan nodded, his expression calm. "Thank you, Commander. We only do what we must." In the following days, Charon's reach began repairs. The scars of battle were visible. Yet the station had survived. Alien engineers worked alongside human technicians, guided by the lessons learned in the corridors of chaos. Humans, once underestimated, were now considered central to the station's future defense plans. Vieira watched the humans interact with her officers. Their methods were different, yet effective. Where aliens relied on sheer power or technology, humans relied on observation, adaptation, and collaboration. They taught the aliens subtle techniques of patience, positioning, and endurance. Slowly, alien skepticism turned into admiration. Ethan moved quietly among them, helping coordinate defense drills, checking repaired systems, and speaking softly to those in need of reassurance. He never boasted, he never demanded recognition. Yet his presence inspired confidence. Where he walked, allies felt steadier. Vieira observed him during one exercise. A young alien soldier, hesitant and unsure, froze in front of an obstacle. Ethan stepped forward, not to command, but to demonstrate. With precise movements, he showed how to navigate the challenge. The soldier copied him, succeeding on the first try. Vieira smiled faintly. Humans led not by fear or dominance, but by example. They taught, protected, and inspired, without speaking loudly. That was their strength, their invisible power. Months later, the station was fully repaired. New protocols incorporated lessons learned from humans. Humans were no longer seen as minor allies or fragile creatures, they were now central to the Alliance's defense strategy. Reports described them as unshakable defenders, admirable leaders in crisis, and survivors, forged in the harshest conditions of the universe. Vieira Threx, once skeptical and mocking, had changed completely. She had learned the hard way that the legends of human warriors were not lies, but truths filtered through disbelief. She now carried a deep respect for humans not because of their size or power, but because of their indomitable spirit. One evening, she walked alone to the observation ring. The stars stretched endlessly beyond the station, infinite and cold. Ethan joined her quietly. As humans often did, they approached without fanfare. "You understand now," she said softly. "Why your people are so feared and so respected." Ethan nodded. "Yes, Commander. And it is not fear that drives us, but necessity and will. Valera looked out at the stars. Your will has changed this station. Your people have changed how we see strength. And you have changed me. Ethan gave a small, respectful nod. We do what we must. That is enough. For the first time, Valera felt the weight of humility. Humans had shown her something no amount of technology, armor, or training could teach. True strength came from within, forged in courage, patience, and resolve. And in that quiet moment, high above the galaxy, Commander Valera Threx understood the truth. Humanity had earned its legends. And those legends were just the beginning. The stars stretched endlessly, and somewhere deep in space, the Alliance knew that when humans stood together, they were unstoppable.